There's a silent killer of artists and musicians that's been stealing their wealth, royalties, potential, and dreams for decades. And no, it's not record labels, and it's not Spotify's 0.003% royalty, and it's not even crooked managers. What is it? It's isolation. You refusing to work with anyone else, play shows with anyone else, or even write or record with anyone new, or go to conferences and meet people, whether that's physically or online, because you think you don't need anyone else. But there's a real problem here. We're in the people business. You won't ask for anyone for help, and you need it, and maybe you don't hire it because maybe it's out of ego or insecurity, but I want to encourage you, we need each other. And I'm going to tell you an insane story on how I got started in the music business. When I first became a rap artist, it was my pastor that introduced me to this producer that could make beats for us. Because at the beginning, all we could do was rap on other people's beats. We'd go and buy these vinyl and we'd rap and perform on other people's beats. But we wanted to release our own music. So he introduced me to a producer. We started working together and making beats for the first time and having our own song, and that was this next level. Well, then he introduced us to this band where we could go and open for them. This band had been blowing it up and crushing it, so we go and open for this band, and of course, instead of having ego, I went and introduced myself. I remember talking to the bass player for the first time, and then meeting the lead singer, and we built this relationship. And then me and my girlfriend at the time started going to their shows and just hanging out and networking with them. And guess what? That one artist, the lead singer there from the band, which was TFK, introduced me to a record label that they were signing with. Okay, and as you can see, this is all relationships, right? And so I signed with that record label, and then that record label's relationships, they got us on this tour for the first time. They introduced me to this manager. They had relationships with festivals, but most importantly, they didn't really do a ton at the US at the time. They did take us to radio. They did do some things, but as an artist, I was like, this isn't happening at the pace I really want it to, because we all got big dreams, right? But they did have distribution through EMI Universal. And so even though they weren't pushing me, they're actually pushing a different artist. They even told us this. They're trying to push all these other artists that they had signed. But this label in Japan, they didn't want those other artists. They wanted me. And so they took me in and they released my album in Japan, and we started selling 10,000 albums a week, right? Now, this is where the relationship got a little crazy. Now the label wants to sign me to a full deal because the original deal was just a licensing deal. And so now they were trying to steal my publishing and do all these gnarly things. And again, I remember going to church. And I was in church and I was praying about this because we're selling 10,000 albums a week. And I remember I told my wife at the time now, because now we were married, the girlfriend, and I ended up marrying her. And I said, look, we got to leave here right after church. I got an idea. And so I remember I went home and I started emailing all these booking agents. I just started Googling them, right? Just saying like looking for booking agents that booked shows in Japan. And I was like, hey, I'm selling 10,000 albums a week. Can we get a tour? And literally within 24 to 48 hours, this one booking agent got back to me and he's like, can you send me more information? And he's like, okay, I'll reach out to some promoters. And within a month, we had a 2-show tour booked in Osaka and Japan. I was able to go do these shows and they paid for my band to go. It was awesome. We got paid well. I had a sponsor, this awesome clothing sponsor, and we go down there. But what's most important here is I met the label at EMI Japan. And what we were able to do is my contract was ending with the label in the US, and I made a new relationship directly with EMI Universal, and I did a deal with them, and I cut out the middleman. Now, it gets even cooler here with relationships, and I just want to really emphasize the importance of being cool to people, being nice to people. You meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. Like these relationships with producers, A&Rs, booking agents, whoever you're meeting, you want to treat kindly and professionally. One of the reasons I was still able to work with certain producers is because I paid on time and I paid promptly, and I didn't give attitude. Sure, I pushed for greatness, but I didn't give attitude, and I was cool to work with, right? Well, what was really neat was when we were releasing this album with EMI Japan, when we finally had the deal with them directly, I remember they introduced me through their relationships to an artist named Koi, who was in this really big band named Crossfaith. And they were just coming up, and they're like, hey, let's feature this guy on your song No Plan B. And we had no idea which songs were going to be the hits and which ones weren't. But guess what? That song No Plan B ended up being huge. We ended up actually shooting a music video in Tokyo, Japan. We got this artist Koi on the song, and wouldn't you know, many, many years later, that artist would blow up and be bigger than I was at the time now, right? And so he's way bigger than me, touring the world, crushing it, right? Well, I remember when our relationship with EMI Japan ended, and I was looking for a distributor. And guess who I called and reached out to find another label to work with actually in Japan? Of course, I used my relationship with Koi from Crossfaith. And so as you can see, all these relationships are connected, and you meet people and they are worth tens and tens of thousands. But you might be thinking, look, I don't tour, Chris. I don't travel. That's okay. Well, you can go to conferences and meet people. I'm going to tell you a crazy story, okay? And if you want the full story of everything that happened to me, like you're into the underdog story that'll really inspire you, read my book, Fighter, 5 Keys to Conquering Fear and Reaching Your Dreams. Because I struggled with fear. I struggle with insecurity. Some of you might not know, I lost my dad to suicide when I was 5 years old, so I didn't have a strong father figure to look up to, and so I found mentors and books and coaches and YouTube videos, and that's one of the big reasons is I give back. God's put me in this position to bless other people because so many amazing men and women have been in my life and encouraged me, okay? So I started going to conferences, right? And, I'm not like a super extroverted guy. I'm actually more introverted. I'd rather just hang out with one person at a time, maybe two, but I'm more small groups. I'm not super extroverted, but I force myself not only to get on stages and perform, but I force myself to go to these conferences and put myself in these rooms that are uncomfortable so I can meet people. So we're at this conference where there's all these different panelists at music industry conferences. They're all speaking and from different industries. And I go to this one conference and they're talking about Spotify. And I realized that one of the guys that's on the panelist is the head of Spotify. So right after that panel, I run to the front of the stage and I introduce myself to this guy. And let me tell you, having a relationship with the very head of Spotify Canada was valuable considering I lived in Canada, right? And so that relationship definitely leveraged some playlists and just different things along the way. Well, there's another panelist where there's a guy talking about SoundCloud and monetizing SoundCloud. And literally, again, right after the panel was done, I shoot to the front, introduce myself, and it was literally within a week I had my SoundCloud channel monetized, and that's made me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's because of these relationships. I can't even tell you, the relationships have now been worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. So what's the massive takeaway on this is don't isolate yourself. Don't do this alone. Hire people. Work with other people because we need each other. This business is actually so small. It's such a small network, and you want to build those relationships and start online, right? And you meet people. And one great place where you can really connect with people for business purposes is LinkedIn. So you can see who people are connected to. And sometimes if you're trying to reach someone or you want to work with somebody else, ask for an intro. Can you introduce me to this person? Who's your contact here? It's amazing in relationships. It's like, who do you get to press your merch, Chris? Who do you normally hire for radio? Who do you work with who's a good, playlist promoter? Who's a good producer for this? Who would you get to sing on this? And this is all by relationships. I remember my buddy texted me the other day, can you introduce me to this person? Sure, here's his number. Just instantly, what is that worth? But if you're isolating yourself and you're on your own, that's costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, over your career. There's another wealth killer that's costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's ignorance. just not knowing what you don't know. Now, before I get into that, I want to make sure you've got my song launch checklist, because maybe you don't know how to release and market a song. You don't know about the pre-launch, you don't know about the day of, and you don't know about how to promote the song after it's out. You can literally breathe life into an old song and blow it up. And the same thing goes for Spotify. Spotify is the biggest opportunity in our century, our decade, our lifetime as artists. Since I've been in the music industry, and I've been in it for 20 years, I know people hate on Spotify, but it's been the biggest opportunity. Both of those books are on Audible or Amazon, or you can get them directly from us with our other training on our website. The links are below. But ignorance, not knowing how to make money with music. And I'm going to give you an example. We've made hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've made $1 million in a year before. And if you only make $50,000 a year from music, right? And you don't know how to make $1 million, that means when a year goes by, it's costing you $950,000 a year not knowing how to make $1 million a year with your music. If you make $100,000 a year from music or whatnot, and you didn't make $1 million, then that means that it's costing you $900,000 a year. You see, everybody pays. You either pay the money to learn, right? Or you pay with ignorance and you pay with your time. And it was frustrating to me when someone proposed that thought to me, like, oh my gosh, like not knowing how to make 6 figures from my music, not knowing how to make 7 figures from my music, not knowing how to promote it, not knowing how to release it. How about not knowing how to write a hit song? Right? Like not knowing how to produce and take a song and have it excellent, right? Not knowing how to get on radio properly, not knowing how to get on a tour or tour successfully, right? Like for years, we toured wrong, like just grinding it out on the road, wasting time, wasting money, right? Wasting my youth. Like why are we trying to get to our dreams so quick? Why do we actually want get rich quick schemes? And scheme really means plan. It comes from the word schematic. We actually do want a plan. Why do we want to get to our dreams faster? So that we can enjoy them longer. Like if I could get to my dreams and be making 7 figures in my 20s as opposed to my 30s or 40s, I'd like to get there. What about you? Wouldn't you like to get to your dreams quicker? Yeah. So you can live them longer. So you can help other people, make more impact. And so I want to encourage you. Getting these relationships is step 1. Step 2 is not being ignorant. The Bible says people perish for a lack of knowledge. You don't know what you don't know. So I encourage you, watch the YouTube videos, read the books, get the courses, get the coaching, whether it's me or somebody else, I don't care, but get the knowledge, because people that pay attention, right? Get a coach, get someone who's going to make you accountable, work with other people, pay that extra money to work with that higher level producer or artist so you can just be around them, to be around greatness. Like when I get in some of these songwriting rooms with artists that have been doing this for years and watching the magic of them getting a song done, oh my gosh, like compared to someone who's kind of new and they're struggling to finish the song and it takes like me going back with them like 5 to 10 times versus someone who just gets it like right on the money, is life changing.